Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Chill with Jim episode where it is always business up top and pajamas on the bottom. I am your host, Jim McCarthy, and I am the client advocate for Strix, Louisiana. My job is to make sure that our clients are set up with the best equipment, software, and IT solutions to make sure that their businesses are running at optimal efficiency. We also have David DeArmond, who is the owner of Strix, Louisiana, with us.
Hey everybody, David DeArmond, owner of Strix LA, and I am here to help keep Jim in check.
and in pajama bottoms. We also have Candace DeArmond, another member of the Strix team, with us. You there, Candace?
Oh, must have lost her.
All right. How about now? One more try? All right. Looks like we will get back to her in a little bit here. So a little bit about Strix, Louisiana. We believe wholeheartedly that there is always a better, simpler, more secure way of doing everything that we're involved in. And so what this means is that we are constantly searching, adapting, and refining our processes to make sure that we have the best solutions in place. One of those responsibilities we feel is to help educate our clients as well as others out there. Just what's going on in the IT world today. We bring some awareness to some current security risks, talk about maybe some of the current resources that are out there that can help their businesses or maybe even their clients' business, and just to be a good solutions provider for everybody. This week, we are talking about home routers and some of the vulnerabilities, some of the super scary security risks that home routers have inside of them. You know, right now, I think most businesses are operating from a work from home standpoint for a lot of their employees. So this is a great option for a lot of companies, but when you look at the security side of things, you know, inside of their offices, they probably have really good setups and technology to make sure all of the computers, all of their data is safe and secure. Once you go to someone's home network, there's quite a few more holes, you could call them, in security. And so we're going to bring some attention to just the router itself and some of those issues we've found along the way. There was actually a report done in 2020 that surveyed 127 of the current routers that are in use right now in the world. And it evaluated their security based off of a few different factors. One of those factors is the days since the firmware has been updated. Does the vendor itself maintain all of their products regularly? Or do they even put any fixes in place when they know of issues? It also looks at the operating system. So every device has a operating system that helps it run, tells it what to do. You know, how current is this operating system that's powering the device? And are there any known vulnerabilities or security risks that are in that operating system? We're going to talk about exploit mitigation. So an exploit mitigation technique is a way that they can block, you know, exploits from happening to that device. There's a few different ways they can do it, and if they put these into their devices, it helps secure them a lot better. And then it looks at the hard-coded login credentials. So are the credentials easy to crack? Are they public, you know, out in the public anywhere? Or are they a little more secure where they're not posting what the credentials are to get into these devices? And it was quite alarming to read, but out of the 127 routers that were tested, 46 of these routers did not get any security updates within a year. They found no routers that they tested didn't have any flaws. So every router they tested had at least one flaw they found while they're doing their investigation. Many of the routers are affected by hundreds of known vulnerabilities. Even if the router gets a recent update, many of those known vulnerabilities were not fixed with the new updates. And then what makes this even worse is when the exploit mitigation techniques we talked about earlier, they're not really even being used on a lot of these devices. So on top of easily crackable passwords or well-known passwords, honestly, and we'll show you in a little bit, most of the admin passwords you're going to find for these devices are just posted on their website or online somewhere. The analysis did say that ASUS and Netgear do a better job overall for a lot of the aspects we're going to go over, as opposed to the D-Link, Linksys, and some of the other vendors that are out there. So let's look at the first thing here is going to be, days since the last firmware update. Now, David, before I kick off into this, can you describe a little bit better what firmware is?
Yeah, so that it's kind of in comparison to software, right? We're used to hearing software and we're used to hearing hardware, and we kind of know what those are. Software, the programs that run on your computer. Hardware is the actual computer, the actual device. It's hard. Firmware is, I guess you could call it, somewhat in between. So it is software, but it's built into the hardware. So most software that you get, you download it from, today you download it from the internet or wherever you install it on your computer. Firmware is built into the hardware, so the actual physical components, they have programs running on them. So that's what firmware is.
Thank you for that explanation. This report showed that the average number of days since all these routers have been updated on their firmware is about 378 days. That means on average, these devices aren't doing any of the security fixes for over a year. The worst cases, they found some of these devices hadn't had any updates for almost 2,000 days, which is about 5 years without any security patches. So if you think about your computer is updating weekly, sometimes more than just weekly. So in reference to like how often you want to do these security updates, your computer is a good example. You think that these devices would be updating hopefully weekly, but it shows that they're not being updated at all. You gotta keep in mind here, routers are one of the most vulnerable devices that you have because they are up 24/7. These devices are always accessible because you leave them on all day, all the time. The other thing we looked at here was the operating system. So how old was the operating system that's actually running the inside of this device, or running this device from the inside? And more than a third of the devices use a version of operating system that is from 2011. So that means they have 9 years where they've done security patches and fixed vulnerabilities that are not being applied to that operating system because it's still running a super old operating system. Some of them actually had some Linux operating systems that were first released in 2002. So, a lot of holes we're talking about when it comes to the way that the device operates. Those operating systems will have known vulnerabilities. Some numbers here, like 21 critical known vulnerabilities were not patched on a lot of these devices. There's 348 high-rated common vulnerabilities and exposures that had not been taken care of at all. And so they're just sitting out there. With the exploit mitigation techniques, there's a few different ways that they do this. There's basically 5 big ones that they put into place that can prevent exploitations from happening. the way they do this is it gets a little bit tech talky, but you know, one of the more common ones is what they do is they mark a region, like, so your device has a storage limit. And so if your storage is not being used, one of the ways they can help prevent a bad guy from getting in is they'll mark that storage that's not being used as, you know, not being able to write. So the bad guy comes in with some software or something he wants to drop on the device. He's got to have storage to be able to do this. And so that's one of the ways they can prevent this. I'm actually going to share my screen here and just show you guys uh, a little bit of a graph that shows out of the majority of the 5. So you see a pentagon here. So those are the 5 different mitigation techniques they can use to prevent this. The 2 most popular are being used, you know, maybe about 50 to 75% of the time for all devices. You can see Asus, they're doing heavy into 2 of them, not using the other ones. This AMV company seems to do a pretty good job, but keep in mind also that these numbers are still, you know, in the 60% here. D-Link, not doing a great job of it. Linksys, Netgear, all of these companies, they're not using the devices or the techniques out there to protect these devices. They're just not doing them. So that was a staggering thing to find. And then the last thing we wanted to talk about was credentials. So, you know, every one of these devices has a way to log in to the device. And, you know, some of the devices are hard coded on the firmware itself, which is very dangerous. That means if anybody gets inside, they can go and find these credentials. The worst case scenario we're seeing is that most of these passwords are public knowledge or they're super easy to crack. So again, I'm going to share my screen here and just show you a website that, oh, and that, hold up one second here. So this website, routerpasswords.com, what it lets you do is so if I have a Netgear device, I've just got a new router, and I don't know how to log in. Well, all I do is I put Netgear in there, and it's going to show me each device, the model, and what the username and password is to get into this device and control it. They get real sophisticated here, people, real sophisticated. They're using things like username is admin and the password is password or 1234. So you can see there's, you know, 20 devices, maybe 30 devices here, where if I know what type of router you're using at your house, I can hop on routerpassword.com. I can get the credentials and I can go ahead and get right in and do whatever I would like with your device. So those are some of the bad things, some of the scary things out there. But we also want to go ahead and talk about ways to defend against this. So there's quite a few ways I'm going to go over. First thing you want to do is you want to change the name of your network device. So a lot of these devices, especially with Wi-Fi networks, they're going to have what's called an SSID. This is your identifier for that device. It's going to say something like ASUS 4525 router sometimes. That's just an example. You can log into the device and you can change the way this appears. Some people talk about, you probably don't want to use a provocative name like "you cannot hack this" because that seems to backfire for them quite a few times. But you can go ahead and name it with, you know, other fun names like "this is not a Wi-Fi" or "to fly for a Wi-Fi." I thought that was pretty good. um, and changing your Wi-Fi default name makes it harder for the bad guys to figure out what type of router you're having. So if you actually broadcast it with the given name, you're telling them the exact model most of the time and what exact device you're using. You want to make sure and set strong and unique passwords for your wireless networks. We've talked about passwords a lot with the Chill with Gyms. You know, the biggest recommendation people have is to use a 20-character password for your Wi-Fi router. Woo, 20 characters. How am I going to remember all this? David, how do we remember all of the passwords we use?
Well, we generally, for everything that we use password one, because that really changes it from password to password one, which is very difficult for people to guess. No, I'm
I thought you
just
were
kidding.
serious for a second there.
This guy's off the rails. No, we use, of course, a password manager, and there are several out there. We've talked about them. We invite you to go on to the to our YouTube channel and look at some of the or listen to the episode where we went in depth with them. But we use Mikey internally here, MYKI. There are others like LastPass that you've heard of, Dashlane, One Password. Those are mostly they're good password managers. They help you generate a very long, like you said, 20 characters if you want. It's very random. You'll never remember it, but that's okay because it's in your password manager. And as long as you keep your password manager safe, you're safe.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Another way to do this is you can actually, most of these devices are going to have encryption. So your Wi-Fi, your routers, you can actually go ahead and set up encryption security on the device itself. Encryption will, it basically masks a lot of the data that's going on. So that way it just looks like random data instead of someone being able to watch every move you have. A lot of the common ones, there's what's called WPA2, which is a protection encryption you can use on your device. There's a couple other names out there, WPA, WEP, that you can select when you're setting up your password. Just makes it that much more secure. This was an interesting recommendation, I thought. Turn off your wireless home network when you're not at home. So they strongly recommend that you just turn off all of your wireless network equipment when you're not using it. What this does is it closes any windows of opportunity for malicious hackers. The other positive thing I thought about with this is that it'll help prevent power surges from hurting your devices. So if there is a power surge when you're not at the house, if it's not turned on or plugged up, you should be all right there. You want to look at where your router is located in your home. So you want it in a central location because that actually gives you the best signal strength throughout the house. But you don't want to put it by, so on that same note, you don't want to really put it by a window or an exterior wall because that's broadcasting your signal way out into the neighbor's house, into the street. So it makes it very easy for people to find your network and hop on in if they have the ways of doing it.
I'm curious how many people have gone on their computer and seen all of the wireless networks and try to connect to them and guess passwords. Has anybody done that? Brad, maybe you're a tech guy. Am I the only one?
I have done that, yes.
Right.
Yep, I've done it. I've done it as well. Or when you're, it's, yeah. I find it funny too when you're driving by and your phone pops up like, oh, hey, do you want to connect to Linksys 351? Like, what? No, I'm just driving here. So another thing we can look at here is strong network administration password. So kind of like I showed you from that website, the actual login to your device to control your device is different than your Wi-Fi password and your Wi-Fi name. The devices are going to use their default one, admin password type thing. But you can actually go on once you're in there and you can set up your own name, your own password. And that's one of the best ways that's probably the first thing you should do once you get a new device is go ahead and change all of that. Another recommendation, change your IP address. So a lot of these are going to have a random IP address or not so much random. They're going to have like a designated IP address that you can log into. Almost all the routers nowadays use a 1.1 IP address or a 0.1 IP address. You can actually go in there and change this so people don't know how to get to that device, because typically they just have to use one of those other two IP addresses. Um, and then again, once you're in there, you can kind of change all of your username and passwords while you're at it, changing your IP address. Disable remote access. A lot of the routers these days come with a remote access, remote administrator option that you can select to turn on, or they're just defaulted to be on. Just go ahead and turn that off. You're really not going to need that feature. If you have a tech difficulty and the provider, the vendor needs to come on and remote in, you can just go back and turn it on. So it's not a big deal. Always keep your router's software up to date. That's what we were talking about with the operating systems and the firmware. Through the admin portal, you'll be able to select to upgrade to the latest version of all of these. And unfortunately, a lot of the companies don't have an auto update feature. And if they do, it's not always going to grab the newest and best update out there. So this can be kind of a hassle for everybody, because now you have to go in and check, every month or so if your update is up to date. So, we're seeing a lot of the home routers just have issues that need to be maintained. A firewall can help. We put firewalls into all of the businesses that we go. This is a device that goes after your router, but before all of your network equipment, computers at the office. It's the same thing for a home network you can set up. You put this firewall device that protects you from the outside world and protects your inside world. And some of these routers actually have firewalls built into the device themselves, so you can enable that and get some added security features. And then, I guess the other thing to look at is to enhance all of the protection of the devices you have connecting. So that means having the most recent software installed on your computer itself, running those latest security patches on all of your devices. At Strix, we actually do this weekly or bi-weekly for all of our clients. It's done in the background, so they don't even know what's going on. So that's one way that we help protect them. You want to make sure you have an antivirus turned on, that it's a good one, and that it's always running. You can even go into like anti-malware if you'd like. That's another good way to protect them. And then there are such things as like traffic filtering that will help filter out some of the known malicious traffic that's going to come in. There's some specialized security software that's out there. That's just another option. And so those are some of the risks and some of the ways that we can protect you, and you can protect yourself while you're at home working from the house. I know I threw a lot of information out there today, but we wanted to make sure that we gave you the why, what's so bad about it, and then also gave you, it's actually 12 different options of things you can do to help protect yourself.
Yeah, and I've posted some links here in the chat, and so a lot of the information that we talked about here, they're in the links as well. But those first two that I posted, the 192.168.0.1, those are what Jim was talking about here. Typically the default, it's either 0.1 or 1.1. And if you click on those links, it'll be interesting to see what pops up, because a lot of times it's going to be your router's web interface. And then, so you can test all of this at your own house. You click on the link there, try some of those default passwords. Let's see, let me get that link for everybody as well. Go look up some default passwords here at routerpasswords.com. See if you can hack into your own wireless router. Just, a little fun for a Wednesday afternoon.
if you've changed it, I mean, those passwords obviously won't work, right?
Right, right. If you update that, they should not work. Now here's the kicker. I think Jim mentioned it, that there are sometimes credentials that are hard coded into the firmware, and it's possible that there are a combination of username and password that will open it up anyway. Now those are not the default passwords that you're going to see on routerpasswords.com. That's if somebody gets a hold of the firmware. The negative part about that, though, is that generally, if it's in the firmware, that means it was put in all of the devices. So if someone cracks into the firmware for a particular model, they can get perhaps a backdoor username and password. It may not work in the web interface, but it may work in some of the other interfaces that you can use to connect to these devices. Once that gets out, the bad guys, they build automatic scanners, and they go out there and they will hit IP addresses and see what does it let me into, and so that's where you start running into your vulnerabilities. A lot of these vulnerabilities, they're only bad if someone is targeting you. If someone wants your information, they can utilize some of these vulnerabilities. The ones that are bad are when someone can use one vulnerability and then scan just really the entire internet if they want to. And there's been several of those vulnerabilities out there that once they get out, it's open season. We have a firewall. One of our clients uses a DVR system for their cameras, and they want to be able to access that publicly. And we have a firewall in place, and it catches a lot of these attempts to use the scanning and vulnerability tools, and we get alerted constantly of this device is getting hit. It's getting hit. And if we either weren't watching for that, or if we had a device that was actually prone to that, they'd be breaking in. And it's constant. It's amazing how prevalent it is. We don't generally see it, but it is out there hitting all of the time.
109 times last month. I know, because I had to do this cybersecurity report. So there's 109 times that they tried to crack into that device. They're persistent, very persistent. So Brad, what are some of the things that your company has been doing to help work from home be successful and be secure? Sorry to put you on the spot, but I'm actually really curious.
Okay. So we were actually a fairly remote company before all of this. So we already had some things in place. One of the biggest things, which actually is a pain to us, but we do have, all of our users do have to use a VPN. And obviously that's common, but we have to set ours up where it is not, this gets a little technical, where it's not what's considered a split tunnel. So that means that that person's laptop at their house, when they're connected to our VPN, that laptop has no visibility on that local network, which cuts down on some of it, but it's not bulletproof by any means.
Yeah, that's another very good layer of security to add, the VPNs, the personal VPNs. And I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. You can even use some of those personal VPNs and put the settings into your wireless router, and your wireless router will use that VPN as well, and it creates that private tunnel. It makes it less obvious to the outside world that this router is sitting here on the network and exposed. And some of those VPN services, they have security built into them to scan for people scanning for things, and they can knock some of that off. So VPN's another very good mitigating factor there.
I'm allowing for my moment of silence to see if anybody wants to hop in here. So David, with home routers being such an issue, we know the VPN will help. What are some of the other, like, just good practice things that we could look into? Or, because here's one of the problems, right? As a business owner, you're probably not going to go and buy all of your home workers new security devices for their house.
Right.
It's very expensive. A lot of them are subscription based, so now you're looking at another monthly cost. So, do you trust your employees to do some of those steps that we talked about? Do you provide them some more tools to make sure they're secure? What are some good ideas that you have?
Yeah, I think it's mostly about educating, and that's a big reason that we do this, because you need to educate your employees that this is a risk, and you have to understand that if you send them home to work and you allow that data onto their home network, that the business owner needs to understand, I am opening myself up here, and so how much do I open it helps you make decisions on how you're going to manage things. There's some low-hanging fruit that you mentioned in those 12 steps. 12 is a lot, and some of those are probably a lot to ask somebody to take, but a few of them are not. Going in and updating the firmware, usually someone can figure that out, and if not, maybe you pay an IT person to come in and take at least a few steps. That's not like buying a whole new piece of equipment. It's just it's about educating yourself as a business owner so that you can properly educate and mitigate, educate your employees and mitigate the risk that you're putting your data in.
Yeah, and I think another good point is that, if so you buy your employee, as a business owner, you're going to buy your employees computers for the office. And we've had quite a few of our clients do this, where they're offering to purchase at least their computer that they're going to be using from the house, because this gives them a good device that is going to be up to the standards they need to run all of their software. It also, for our clients, it gives them the extended security. So since it's owned by their company, we're going to put all of our security packages on every device that they would like. So we're doing the antivirus, we're doing all of our cybersecurity needs, protections are in place. They have all the resources through the cloud that you want to give them, and still have it be a business-owned device. So maybe that if that person leaves, they're not taking it with them.
Right.
It's still a possibility, but I think as we go farther and farther into this world of work from home, business owners need to start understanding that these upfront prices or expenses of buying new equipment is really it's an investment into making sure they can get their job done efficiently. Because when we first in March, when we first got all of our clients were working remotely, some of their computers were 8 to 10 years old that they were working from at the house.
Yeah, the home computers.
Yeah, their home computers are 8 or 10 years old, and they're just not performing the way that they need to, like Brad was talking about, to VPN into the network or to remote into their office computer. They couldn't handle the resources. So this is an investment into efficiencies. It's an investment into security, and it's an investment into your people. It does make you feel really good as an employee if you're like, yeah, my boss bought me my own computer for the house. I feel valuable. I'm really going to start knocking out some work here. But I think that's an important step that we're going to have to start making as we turn more and more remote.
Yeah, and that gets into an interesting business discussion, because if you're the size company where you're paying for a lot of real estate, and now you're not utilizing that real estate anymore, it's a good idea to transfer what you were paying in real estate and put it on your technology, your security, because a lot of times you can spend, you know, if you spend 70% of what you're saving in real estate costs, a lot of times you can do a whole lot with technology and security, and you're still saving 30%, and you've made yourself much more secure. So that's an interesting discussion where you start counting the numbers, and well, we're shifting things around. So
Yeah. And Brad, do you guys, for the people who are remoting in now or VPNing in, are they typically on a home device, or was your environment already where they're using a laptop at the office anyways?
It was a decision made a while back that everyone would have a laptop. So every device they have, and actually we don't allow personal devices to connect back to it. That's actually for compliance reasons, but that's also just general good security if you can do it.
yeah, I think that's a new trend, where we used to sell a lot of desktops for people that were working at the office, and that desktop pretty much stays on that desktop. That's why they call it a desktop. Now we're seeing more clients buying laptops, and they buy the laptop with the docking station. You go into the office, you plug into that docking station, you've got multiple screens. It's just like having a desktop. The difference is you can unplug it from the docking station and take it home with you, and you can bring with you all of the security that's built into it. So we see that as a growing trend for businesses.
Yes, it's a great point. It's a great investment. It allows the mobility of what everybody needs, and then with things like the VPN, you still have access to all of your network needs. So like we have Bridget on the line, who their office utilizes a server where they need to contact and pull up a lot of this data that they have on their server. Well, we have it set up so all of their clients from the house, from wherever they're at, they can still VPN into the network and grab the data that they need.
One thing that I wanted to make sure that we cover too is, how can you tell if maybe you've already been hacked? How can you tell if someone has gotten into your router? And one way to check that, this is only one of the ways, but something that the bad guys are going to want to do is change your DNS settings. And without getting into all the technicalities of DNS, that is kind of what directs all of your traffic. And if someone changes your DNS settings, it means all of your internet traffic is going to go through that DNS server first. So they set up their own DNS servers, they change the settings on your router, now they're getting all of your traffic, and they're watching everything going back and forth. They're grabbing passwords, they're grabbing sensitive information. So if you take a look at this link that I just posted, Who is my DNS, it's going to pop up and tell you what DNS server you're using right now. And generally, what you want to see here is something is your ISP, your internet service provider. You want to see their IP address, or if you're using another DNS service out there, you want to see that it's what you expect. It is a known and valid company. If you see something fishy there, send it to us. Just send an email to support@strixla.com, or if you want to use the "is this okay" @strixla.com, send it to us. We're happy to look into it, because it could be an indication that someone has already gotten into your router. You never knew it, and they are currently watching us do this chill with Jim Zoom episode here.
Can you go ahead and pull that up, share your screen so we can just see a little bit of an example of what you're talking about, David?
Sure. Yeah. So share screen. And I'm going to share the screen here. All right.
Hopefully you're not hacked and it comes up and shows that you're
All right. So you guys see my screen here?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you see the 192.168.127.205? Is that what y'all are seeing?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, so this is the DNS server. Here at my home office, we have the same firewall that we put in our clients. We're running it here. It's a gateway, and it's going through their DNS services. And so, you know, I looked this up. This IP address is VeriSign Global Registry Services. It's all legitimate. Makes me feel good that our DNS is pointing in the right direction. Maybe a little bit unfair because we're utilizing the same equipment that we put in at our client's location. It'll be interesting to see what you guys see.
Yeah, and I can show with mine. So what mine is going to show is what it looks like if you have a Cox connection here. So when I look up mine, it shows that, yeah, oh, okay, good. I'm paying for Cox at the house. I got my server here, but it Cox.net, and the IP owner is Cox Communications. So that's what you're looking for. If you have AT&T, you want to make sure that they're the owner. You know, whoever you're getting your service through, this website, and I think, David, you dropped it in there already. Just go to this website. You can see real easily, real quickly, if everything matches up with who you're paying.
And that's a good example right there of how your DNS information can change, because I'm on Cox as well. So, but just because we're on the Cox ISP network doesn't mean that that's where my DNS is pointing. So, you know, we have purposely changed ours. Hopefully, no one has changed any of yours.
Hey, David, I have a question then.
Yeah.
When I go into mine, my internet is through a cable company called Armstrong. And when I go into who is my DNS, it says IP owner securedconnectivity.net.
Okay.
How do I know if it's right or wrong?
You can start looking up information about secured connectivity. You also use a VPN, is that right?
Oh, yes. And my VPN is on right now.
Yeah. So if you're using a VPN, that should be redirecting your DNS, and you know, that's something you can play with. Turn the VPN off, check your DNS. Turn the VPN back on, check your DNS. That'll tell you, you know, is it changing my DNS? So that and let's say, for instance, your router had been hacked, and that would show you, okay, using a VPN, I'm getting around what the hacker has done, versus if I was using no VPN, all of my traffic is going through them. So.
Okay. Well, I just turned off my VPN, and it does say Zoom Internet, which is Armstrong. So it looks like my router's okay, but that connectivity, that's whatever it was, must be because I have the VPN going.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's part of the benefits of running the VPN. So
Okay.
Good job.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, and for all those, sorry if I cut you off, Carlene.
No,
Okay.
Good.
For all those in Facebook land, you know, I don't know if they get the chats. They don't get the chats, I don't think.
No, that's why you gotta register. You gotta be on board.
So that website is whoismydns.com, and you can go ahead right now while you're watching, see what you see. We're a solutions provider, so if you email us, like David said earlier, we're not gonna do something where it's like, yeah, we can help you for $50. We're yeah, write us
Oh,
all day.
you're in huge trouble. That one's going to cost you big.
Yeah, we're here to help. So don't be afraid to send support at Strix STRIXLA.com. Any of those questions, because you know, we like to be your technology superheroes. There's not a charge. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that, because some of these webinars I go on, sometimes they offer a lot, and then I find out that they also want you to pay for a lot. So that is something that we are not going to do.
I have a question for both of you or anyone. What are your thoughts? I mean, obviously a home user, if they call Cox or any company, they're probably just going to say, you know, give me Wi-Fi, and they're going to give them an all-in-one modem, router, wireless combo that they have very little access to change anything on. And who knows if Cox is actually updating and doing things to them or whomever. Um, Generally, I tell people to not get them, but you know, that's not what most people do.
Yeah. Carlene, I'm interested. What do you have at your house? Is it an all-in-one that the Zoom internet folks gave to you? Is that what you said they were called? Zoom internet?
Yeah, it's
Strong.
strong, but it's Zoom internet. I actually purchased my own Linksys router, and it's kind of funny because when all this stuff started happening, I was on the cheapest internet package, and I have a Fire Stick, so I was messing with that, trying to watch movies, and it would just buffer and whatever. So I thought, okay, I'm going to upgrade my internet, and the guy came out, and it was something where they could give me a router. And he looked at mine and he's like, you don't need a router. He says, your router is really good. So whatever I had bought was a good one. And, you know, he didn't even need to upgrade mine. So
Yeah.
I just have a Linksys. I'm not sure the model, but I bought it about a year ago and I bought a good one.
Yeah. I mean, Brad, I'm with you. I don't want to use the equipment that Cox or Comcast or Charter or any of those guys are giving me. You usually, like you said, you don't have the flexibility to go in and change things. You don't know what they're doing with it. So I've always put in another layer of my own equipment after whatever equipment they bring in, whatever router they bring in.
Yeah, and it's I'm glad you brought that up, Brad, because actually I've been having that discussion with my roommate here. Is you know, you think about, so the subscription model with Cox, if you do get their equipment, I think typically it's about 10 or 12 bucks a month that you're renting this piece of equipment for. Most of the solid, good routers out there are going to be 150 bucks. You know, maybe one with a little more robust capabilities, you're getting up into the $200 range. But so you're going to pay for that when you're renting this, you know, in a year and a half, and they're not going to upgrade it, and they're not going to do a lot of so many times the routers that Cox will put into place, when I go to someone's house, they are still using the admin passwords of admin and password or whatever it is. They're not updating things. They're running on the oldest software. So I always recommend people go out and they get their own. A few years ago, I know that the combos where you're doing routing and Wi-Fi at the same time, they had a higher likelihood of failure. So I typically advise them to get a Wi-Fi device and a, you know, router or, you know, separate
Cable modem. Yeah.
cable modem, whatever it is you want to call it, separate, because it's just that's what I remember reading quite a few years ago, and it might not still be the case, but I usually like to separate those two things anyways, so you can really isolate if there is a problem.
Yeah, the ISPs are going to leave that equipment there as long as they can, and you'll go in 5, 6 years later, and as long as the equipment's working, they're leaving it. You know that stuff isn't updated.
Yep. Yep. So it's very important. And there's a lot of information out there. There's still going to be those. You're still going to need to take some of those steps we listed earlier to protect that device you buy from Amazon or wherever you get it. But you have a lot more control than if you just rely on your internet provider to handle that. And it's actually, in the long run, it's a lot more affordable if you do the numbers. So any other questions out there? Candace has been quiet this whole time.
She said her mic went out, so that may be why.
Yeah, my mic doesn't like me today.
Oh, we hear you now.
I tried to talk about 5 times, and my computer and my headset are not wanting to be friends today. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no.
So
All good.
I just shut up because I didn't know when it was going to cut out and when it was going to.
You want to tell us just a little bit about your role with Strix while we got you unmuted?
No, I
and
mean, David
successful?
stole my role. He said that he was the boss. So, I mean, he stole my answer.
Oh.
Who the real is.
All right, everyone. Well, since we don't have any more questions out there, and I think, we gave a lot of information, valuable information. The cool thing about these episodes, we are recording them and we're posting them to our YouTube site. So you don't have to remember everything I told you today. You can go back and look. And David, if you have a link for that YouTube page, we'll drop it at the bottom here. See, look at I just make them do all this
Yeah.
stuff. I have the internet here too. I could do it myself.
I wasn't ready for that link. I had other links ready to go.
I have it ready to go. Let me,
All right.
I'm going to go ahead and post the links for our next chill first, since I already had that one ready.
Okay.
And then the YouTube I'll post second. And David actually has a cool video for our next chill to give
Yeah.
y'all an idea of what we're going to have for y'all next week.
Exciting stuff. Are you ready, Jim?
I'm nervous. I haven't seen it yet.
Haven't seen it? All right, so here we go. I'm going to share the sound because there's sound that goes along with it. All right. All right.
Okay.
Everybody see it?
Yep, we can see it now. Yep.
All right, here we go.
Wow. Okay. I was supposed to do this Chill with Jim episode next Wednesday, but I'm gonna cancel it. Whatever that is, I want in. So yeah, there's a little sneak peek. Just to let you guys know, Cami Miller is a good friend of our company. She does business coaching. She also does personal coaching. I have actually been doing both with her for the last month and a half, and she's amazing. She has over 30 years of coaching experience. She's lived all over the world. Just a huge knowledge resource. So we're really excited to have her on. She's going to talk a lot about what coaching is, kind of the process of it, and then she'll be there to answer any questions you have related to her services. She's going to give out some little pieces of the puzzle that'll help you get going as an individual or as a business owner. But I promise you guys are going to enjoy it. So that being said, thank you everybody for coming out. Carlene, MVP, we appreciate it. Bridget, Brad, Candace, David, all of you, thank you for supporting this Chill with Jim episode. where it's always business up top. And you got those pajamas on the bottom. We'll be here next week. Same chill time, same chill channel. And we'll see you there.
Take care, everybody.
Bye,
Thank
everybody. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks for participating.
You're welcome.
We enjoy having you on.